here as we're screening Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. And one of the things that was really interesting about that, new stories, new experiences, other things, and it's a testament, for a man with a really full career that he's had, and some of which has informed his new book, Live Long and, about aging and all.
And he has prospered.
He certainly has prospered. So, let me not make you wait any longer. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. William Shatner.
This is all reserved for committees, and there's nobody in them. Where are they?
Running the convention.
They're running the convention. Well, why don't we occupy their seats? That's enough. I'm not going to be a disruptor anymore. I've disrupted enough. Wait, that's sort of stealing the focus, isn't it? If I together. What else should I say? I didn't say that. So, good afternoon, everybody. Good to see you all. So, in these things, it's like, what do you say first? Hello. To warm the audience up. What do you say? So, start with a funny joke. That's why you're carrying the camera and I'm up here. So, I was trying to think of when I was last in Baltimore. And I guess it wasn't when I was last in Baltimore. But what I remember, Baltimore, most of all, that which I remember Baltimore the most, for which, with some years ago, many years ago, after much research, went to the hospital and
John Hopkins.
John Hopkins Hospital. Because sometime earlier, about a year or so earlier, I'm walking on the beach in Southern California, and you know that hiss that waves make as they recede? There's like a and I heard and it didn't go away. And I began to realize it was inside my head. I was hearing a noise that is, I learned much later, is called tinnitus.
Yes.
And I got tinnitus. And I was only aware of it while when I was ready to get to the wave. I subsequently found out that it can happen in a variety of ways, but what the end result is, the little hairs inside your hearing apparatus can die for a number of reasons, age, diet, or in my case, I think it was an explosion on the set of Star Trek that affected Leonard Nimoy and myself. And it must have happened then that the little hairs die, and some do, and you're at birth, when your baby mind arranges itself, what they call a code of silence. Like the baby's vision is upside down, then it corrects itself, and the brain assumes a code of silence. This is what silence is. And then when that code is broken by the cilia, the hairs of them dying, suddenly the brain doesn't know that it's not hearing him, and creates this sound, which can be any of many things. Well, you can imagine hearing a constant sound, thinking you're going nuts. I got panicked. Thought it would interfere with my life, learning words, and all that kind of thing. So I went desperately on the search, and ended up, a couple of years later, John Hopkins, who had a tinnitus expert on staff, and I went to see him. And what they could do for me was what he was using himself, because he himself had tinnitus. I had gone to see the head of the eye and ear, name I've forgotten, expert, big company in Los Angeles, and I sat in the guy's office who had founded the company with tears in our eyes because he too had tinnitus, and we realized that we would never hear a silent night ever again. So he had nothing to help me, but there I was in Johns Hopkins with this expert who said, no, there is no cure, but I can help you habituate. And they provided me with hearing aids, which instead of receiving sound, gave out sound. And I wore them. They said, you know, if you wear them 8, 10 hours a day, well, I wore mine for 24 hours a day. I went to sleep with it. And within some months, the sound of the white noise that these hearing aids provided allowed me to accept the sound that was going on in my head. Leonard had the same thing happen. And then I went to the Tinnitus Institute, which was in Oregon, and somehow I became equipped. I went there to see what they could do for me. And the head, this was important, the head guy there, who also had tinnitus, used machinery to find out what tenor, what the timbre was and the quality of the sound inside my head. When he was able to dial it and imitate the sound that was in my head, I started to weep because it was like somebody reaching out and holding my hand. And he was instantaneously there with the Kleenex because apparently everybody does. Everybody does cry, so Captain Kirk was crying. But what I learned there about accepting the sound and not fighting it, and you can imagine in stillness of the night, people around us hear the crickets. No, because my sound is very close to the cricket sound. People have called me. A famous guitarist comes to mind that I didn't know, that subsequently appears on one of my albums, called me saying he wanted to commit suicide. It was so bad. And I was able to talk him down, telling him how badly I felt, that I was suicidal. And that eventually you become habituated, and then you don't hear it unless you talk about it, like I'm hearing it now. So that was Johns Hopkins. I settled in, and I have talked down a half a dozen people who were suicidal, said, I'm going to kill myself, and I was able to talk them down. Many, many times, talk to other people who were being driven crazy by it. It all came about by this visit in Baltimore to the hospital here. I've been forever grateful to it. I'm just wondering, as the older you get, the more you think about dying. Aren't these subjects pleasant? Are we having a Well, the more you older you get, the more you think, I'm going to die soon. And it's like, that too, I got to talk people to committing suicide about dying. No, it's just that the prospect of dying becomes more and more real. And you think, wow, I wonder if at the very last moment, will I hear this hissing sound, or will I hear quiet again? It's kind of private thoughts that I thought I'd share with you, as a means of opening up and getting acquainted. So let's find out what you want me to talk about by asking you a question. So somebody get up to that microphone and begin the process. There goes that. Perfect.
Wow.
You're next.
Okay, there's been 5 captains on Star Trek.
There have been 5 captains, yes.
How would you compare Captain Kirk to the other 4?
I did a documentary about that very same subject.
Yeah, you did.
I did a documentary called The Captains. You didn't see it yet. I'll send you a copy. But I did that very same thing. I thought, who are the actors? Let me tell you the story of the documentary. So, I asked myself that very same question. What's your name?
John.
John, I asked myself that very same question. Who are the other actors? What are they doing that they were chosen to play a captain in Star Trek? So I called the documentary The Captains. Has anybody heard of it? Seen it? Of course. Thank you. What? Amazon Prime. Well, it's around somewhere, like in my basement. So I thought, okay, that's a good subject. And I had a little backing, but not enough, because the captains were distributed all over the world. Some in New York, one in England, as we know, Patrick. So I costed how much the transportation would be, and discovered that it was going to cost more to get on airplanes with the crew and everything like that than I had money to pay for everything. It was then that I thought, I'm going to call a large airplane company, Bombardier,
Right.
who make the things that go in the water and the snow. The what? The jet skis and what do they call them? The ski-doos. The ski-doos, the snowmobiles. Bombardier makes the things that go in the water, the things that go in the snow, and then just have to go to the things that go in the air. We call them airplanes. And they became Canada's leading private airplane manufacturer. So here's how crazy the tinnitus drove me. I thought, I'll call the head guy. No other reason. And so I dialed Bombardier, headquarters in Toronto, not Canadian. And the secretary answers the phone. And I said, I'd like to speak to the CEO. She said, just a minute. Purely Canadian. The secretary, the CEO, secretary, can I speak? Yes, who's calling? William Shatner. All right, just a moment, please. And on comes, and I've forgotten his name too. And I said, I would go, I'm so glad to talk to you. I said, here's my situation. I've got a documentary I want to make about the 5 captains, and I need an airplane to take me around, like to London and New York and various places. He says, okay. I said, you'll lend me an airplane? He says, of course. When do you want it? I said, well, in a month's time, I'd like to get on an airplane in Los Angeles. I got to pick up a Canadian crew in Toronto, where you guys are. And he said, fine. He lent me a Bombardier, like 20-person airplane. The plane flies me to Toronto, and I get off the airplane, and there's the gentleman. I wish I could remember his name. He greets me on the tarmac of the Toronto airport. How are you, Bill? How are you? He's like, I said, why are you doing this? And he said, as a result of Star Trek, I became an aeronautical engineer and ultimately became the head of Bombardier, and this is my way of giving back. I then went around all over the place interviewing the 4 captains, and in the process, because I had a lot of footage, was able to interview myself. Some of the stories it's instead of interviewing, I was having a conversation with, much like you and I are having a conversation. No, I'm not having a conversation. He hasn't said a word.
It's called a monologue.
It's called a monologue. But I had a conversation with each of the captains and was able to extract from that conversation stuff that I would answer, that I answered when asking the question. Well, here's how I feel. Knowing that I would ultimately want to hear myself talk as well. It was then I realized I was the best of the captains.
Okay,
You can leave now. What? You can leave now. Well, you're still there.
yeah.
Why are you still there?
You said I could get a copy of
How do we get you out of there? Like, what method do we use to extract you from that microphone? There's a guy behind you who is really in front of you. Yes, he just made a motion to choke you, John.
Well, how do you get a copy of that documentary?
Oh, buy it. I don't know. Look it up. I didn't have to buy one. Amazon. Thanks, John. John. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
My name's Earl.
Right close to the microphone, Earl.
My name is Earl.
Are you an Earl or are you just an Earl?
I am an Earl. Thank you.
God, was that trip necessary? Well, it was fun watching you.
First, I'd like to say thank you for mentioning the tendinitis. That's all I can hear now.
Say that again.
And I really do want to say thank you for your latest show.
Better late than never.
Better late than never. I laughed and I'd like to know where you're going next, and do you really have as much fun as you seem to on the show? Because you seem to have a blast on the show along with everybody else.
Well, it is fun to a certain degree. Like, we're having fun now, right? You're talking, you're looking me in the eye, I'm looking you in the eye. I'm glad to see you, you're glad to see me. And we're talking, we're having a nice time. If you ask me a question, I'll answer it. Take me 3, 4, 5 minutes to answer it. We have a good time. If you did this for 12 hours, from morning till night, 6 weeks of it, would we still be having fun? It's fun, but it's work, man. I mean, you got to be thinking of things to say, and you want to be amusing, and you got to be intelligent, and all this is ad-libbed. It's like, it's tough work. I mean, we had great times, and I got to know and love each one of those people. Henry Winkler and Terry Bradshaw. Terry Bradshaw is one of the great athletes, American athletes. He has 4 Super Bowls. I mean, he's really a tough guy. What do you like, the witch of Macbeth there? Yeah, so Terry Bradshaw is a tough guy. He's got 4 Super Bowl rings. I'm going to tell you how tough Terry Bradshaw is. He's in the middle of a football game, and the whistle blows, and the linebacker comes and tackles him, and the whistle blows and play is dead. And the linebacker is supposed to let go of him. But instead, this particular linebacker, whose name I don't know, it's not even, I haven't forgotten it, I never knew it, picks him up, and you can imagine how big the linebacker was, because Terry's like 6'3" or something. Picks him up and pile drives him into the ground, head first. Okay? Really mean linebacker. Whereupon, Terry can't get up. He's lost all feeling from the neck down. He thinks he's paraplegic. He thinks he's crippled forever. He's weeping. He can't raise his hand in the gesture as they cart him off. They cart him off. The game on Sunday. But by Tuesday, whatever bruised in the spine is sufficiently released so that feeling comes back to his legs and his arms, and that next week, that next Sunday, the coach says, you go back in. Terry says, yeah, I got it. You go back, and he's playing football the following Sunday. That's how tough Terry Bradshaw is. Now let me tell you how tough he really is. We're in Sweden, in the capital of Sweden.
Stockholm.
Stockholm, thank you very much. Got a very intelligent audience here. Depending. So now we're in Sweden, in Stockholm. And apparently, 1% of the Swedes love this delicacy. It's called fermented cod. Right? It's, you know that? You know how badly it smells? You know how badly it smells? I'll tell you how badly it smells. When we opened the can of it, and there's 5 cameras on us like this, okay? We're at the table and there's 5 cameras. This camera catches this cameraman over here, projectile vomiting. Because we opened the can of this, that had swollen. It was like, well, if you saw a can of beans that looked like that, you'd throw it out. You'd know that you'd die of poisoning if you ate it. The Swedes eat it. 1%. So they said, the management said, all right, they're rolling the can. All right, somebody opened the can. So I don't remember who opened it. Say it was George Foreman who opened it. This thing spat over everywhere, especially over Terry Bradshaw, who began to scream. Now, I don't want to tell you that he screamed like a girl, because I'll get letters. He screamed like a girl. Oh my God! This is no exaggeration. Oh my God! Oh my God! Tough Terry Bradshaw. Oh my God! I take a piece of fermented cod and toss it in my mouth. It's not so bad. I mean, it's bad. It's not as bad as it smells. I then grab another piece of cod and aim it towards Terry, who gets up and runs. He's a famous football player. But he's reached the age where his knees don't work too well. And I've reached the age where my back is affecting my legs. Okay? So I'm running after it, which he later says, you give a very good impression of running. I run after him, he trips, and I jump on him, and I've got the fermented herring. And he's screaming, oh my God, oh my God. Tough Terry Bradshaw. That was enjoyable. I don't know. We haven't been picked up yet, and we may be able to sell it to another number.
I think it's wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good way to start the question. I wanted to talk a bit about, you've had some very interesting roles pre-Star Trek, ranging from Alexander the Great to Andersonville Trial. You've spoken English, you've spoken in Esperanto. I guess I'd like to stick for a moment to the Andersonville Trial. That was a blockbuster cast, including yourself. Just what was it like making a show like that?
Well, it was one of the, so many years ago that nobody but you and I will remember it. But you do too? Thank you. What's your name?
Ron.
Ron? What Ron was referring to is there was a series of shows many years ago, Hollywood Theater or something like that, which was the last of live television. Live television dramas. Years before, when I'd been in Canada at a theater company in Stratford, Ontario, and we were named the best classical acting company in North America. I'd been with the company 3 years, and we had taken down to New York City a play by Marlowe, Tamerlane, and I played a good role in it, and the critics noticed me, and the agents noticed me, and the producers of live television, which was happening in New York City at the time. So after Tamerlane, I became quite popular in live television. I was one of the busiest actors, I was young, and I was running around, and I did all kinds of live shows, which led then to Hollywood. So, having had the experience, the theater experience, on Broadway and in Canada, to name 2 places, I was asked by the producers of this, I believe it was called Hollywood Theater, to be in this Broadway play that was going to be televised. And George C. Scott, you remember him? Was directing it. He had been in the play, so he was going to direct it. And he was quite a great character as well as an actor and as well as a gentleman. And so we did this play about the Civil War and about what the camps were like in the Civil War. And I played the head of a prison of war camp for the North, incarcerating the Southern prisoners, and the problems of trying to contain rebellious soldiers in a barbed wire camp, and the conscience that ultimately I had. It was a wonderful role, and to be with this marvelous company of players. But what? The magic of that show, as was all of live television, was the fact that all this was happening like it's happening right in front of you now. The words you say, although you've learned the words, you don't always remember the right words, and things go wrong because human beings are interacting. Things always go wrong. Room service at the hotel that I'm staying in. What's the name of the hotel? The Marriott or something? The Hyatt, whatever it is. Terrible hotel. I mean, the building itself is very nice. The people are terrible. Yes. Room service took an accident. I should be staying here. I am staying here. So, live television was on its last moment with that play. And it was exciting because we all knew that the death knell of live television, which had moved from New York, where I had been popular playing it there, it had, all of television had moved to Los Angeles, and here were the last vestiges. And so many people connected with that play were theater people or people from live television that I had known just a couple of years earlier. So that was the joy of that play.
Thank you.
Thank you. Look at you. You've gone to a lot of trouble to be here.
Pardon?
You've gone to a lot of trouble to be here, and I certainly appreciate it.
Well, I certainly appreciate your being here. I have 2 questions for you, sir.
Nice and loud, right into the mic.
Okay, 2 questions for you. The first is, are you still able to drive and do you still have your horses?
Horses?
Horses. One horse person to another.
And what's your other question?
I wanted to thank you for all the help that you do for AHEAD and therapeutic riding. And I'm also a volunteer
Thank you so
at
much.
the therapeutic riding
Yes.
center out here.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So,
Yes. When I leave here, I'm just here for the day. And early tomorrow morning, I'm renting a car, and I'm driving to Lexington, Kentucky, where I have a place, and my wife and I, and I'm going to be in competition there in Lexington, the charity horse show it's called there, and I'll be in competition in two disciplines that are prevalent in the South. One of them is with a saddlebred, an American saddlebred, high-stepping, high-headed horse, dragging a cart. And because the horse is so beautiful, these American saddlebreds, some of them are more beautiful than others, like human beings. And those really beautiful ones, instead of putting a rider on the horse, they ask the horse to pull a cart, so that, and you're in the cart, and you're guiding the horse and pushing him up into the bit, so his head comes up, his chin goes down, and brings up his action, so the action of his four legs are like a ballet dancer, and you're pushing him just gently on a clothesline balance of his bit on his mouth. If you pull too much on his mouth, he'll drop back and lose his action. If you let too much, give him too much rein, his nose goes out, his neck goes out, less action. So you have to be balanced just on the tip of a feather, where you're holding the horse like this and urging him on with your voice, maybe a little tap of the lasso, and just holding him there. I've got a wonderful horse whose name is Medici, and he's a champion, and I've been driving him. And the other thing I'm doing for many years now, and I have world championships as well as in harness, I have world championships in another discipline, which is even more dangerous, which is a standard bred, which is a trotting horse. You've seen these trotting horses in racetracks. Well, this is a trotting horse, a standard bred horse. In the same get-up, it's called to bite. There's a sulky, 2 wheels, and you're right behind the horse, and the horse is going in the arena, along with as many as 10, I've seen, other horses going around at the same rate of speed as the horses in a race. So they're going about 40 miles an hour around the oval, which can be fairly small or fairly large, and you're competing for style and 3 speeds, slow, faster, and fastest, and you're also looking for style, also the neck up, and that's dangerous, because there are people right behind you, and people have fallen out of the sulky as it's going around the corner, much like motorcycle racing. I'll be doing those 2 things this week, this coming week, in Lexington. What I also love to do is what is called reining, which is with quarter horses, sliding stops, 30 or 40 feet, rollbacks, turns, fast circles, slow circles, done in a pattern. And I'll be doing that in the next few weeks. So I'm actively involved at riding horses and guiding horses in a cart behind, all of which takes physical strength and balance. And I was watching the activity where they swing on the Ninja Warrior, okay? Ninja Warrior, it's great fun. So I was watching a guy about to compete, and he brought his 80-year-old mother to the meeting. And I'm looking at this 80-year-old lady who looks very old. She's 80 years old. She's really old. I'm older than she is. And I'm doing all that stuff. I was about to say shit. I'm doing all that stuff. I shouldn't be doing it. They want me to use a mounting block to get up on the horse. like little 3 steps, and then get on the horse. It's easier on the horse and easier on the rider. That's an admission of weakness. So I get up on the horse. Then I feel it the next day because I ride 3 or 4 horses. So the left hip is going slowly. But it's not gone yet.
As a former dressage rider, hunter, jumper
No,
rider.
really?
Yes, I understand exactly what you talk about.
So
you
we-
talk about keeping the horse on the bit, working off the hind end, driving down to the bit, so you get a nice
So the
trained horse.
beauty of the horse, the spirit of the horse, I wrote a book called The Spirit of the Horse.
Yes, you do.
The beauty of the horse itself and the mysticism of the connection between a horse and rider, so that the rider is communicating with another species. You're talking to the horse with your hands, your legs, your voices, and you're saying, let's move to the right. And the horse says, no. And you say, do it. And he says, okay. And that's the gorgeousness of riding a horse.
Thank you very much.
Well, you just answered half of my question, but maybe if you could just say a little bit more about how the relationships you've had with horses has shaped you as a human being, as a person.
The relationship what?
That you've had with horses, has shaped you as a person.
Here's what I think about horses. I have a charity that I call the Hollywood Charity Horse Show. And for any of you here, if you have any sense of me, go to WilliamShatner.com. It'll tell you how to get to the horse charity. I'm doing a number of charitable things, and I don't want to take up your time too much telling you about what I'm doing for other people. But I could use your help, even the slightest bit. And I'm going to tell you a couple of those things. So, horses have a mystical quality. It's possible, the explanation is this, that they're prey animals. Predators eat horses, or deer, or four-footed animals like horses, zebras. You've seen all that wildlife footage. Well, for millions of years, maybe billions, horses or their ancestors or predecessors have always been the goal of what a flesh-eating predator would be looking for. So they have evolved into being aware every moment of what's around them. A horse will notice this on the ground that wasn't there yesterday. They'll shy from it. It's going to eat me. You can just feel it saying, it's going to eat me. The flag waving, it's going to eat me. And so a horse doesn't think about yesterday, of what they thought was going to eat them yesterday. The horse doesn't think of what's going to eat them tomorrow. The horse is thinking, what's around me? What is in the now? The horse lives in the now. And that's what the horse has taught me. You can't do anything about the past. The moment my words are out of my mouth, I can't do anything about the past. I can't anticipate what I'm about to say. What's happening is in the now between you and me. It's exactly what it is. You and me are in this moment, and that's all that exists in this moment in time. That's what horses can teach you. The horse therapy that I'm involved in, it's called hippotherapy. It's been around since the dawn of 10,000 years when man began to domesticate the horses. What they find is that the identification of this child, I've seen children clinging onto a horse. I've got pictures of a child holding onto a horse's leg And then watch the child in motion picture take a step, their first step, 6, 7-year-old child, take their first step by themselves and fall to the ground and try and get up. Because it had the courage to hold on to this enormous animal that was so much larger than them, so much more powerful, whose back they were on. The reason I got into all this was a 6-year-old little girl, this is 30 years ago, a thalidomide baby. The pregnant woman had taken some chemical called thalidomide for morning sickness, I think it was, and the baby was born without arms and missing one leg. All she had for limbs was one leg. Beautiful child, now 6 years old, holding onto the reins with her toes. She had learned to manipulate her foot and her toes. Guiding the horse with somebody on either side, two prepared people, spotters on either side, but trained, and somebody guiding a trained horse in front. So labor intensive. Allowing this child to feel the motion of walking, to feel the power of the horse, and to feel the emotional identification, to be able to hug the horse and feel that enormous body responding. I've seen soldiers with the same disabilities, either emotional, social, physical, that children have. I've seen them come alive, purposeful. They're suicidal until they had the love, the need to take care of the horse. I've seen miracles with hippotherapy, not miracles. Things that can happen, that we humans can help happen. So, horseshow.org, WilliamShatner.com, that's my channel. But let me continue on this theme for a moment. So, about 2 years ago, a guy in Niamo, British Columbia, tweets me. I'm with an autistic child. My boy is autistic. And he will only eat pasta that comes from a carton with Star Wars on it. We've run out of Star Wars cartons. Can you help? We tweet it, and he gets thousands of cartons of pasta. Okay? Kraft, who makes it, gets a hold of the kid and says, help us design, the autistic child, help us design a new carton. Life suddenly opened up.